Resident for 27 years. She earned her Bachelor of Science degree from Florida Southern College with a double major in Human Resources and Finance. In March 2014, she successfully completed a 70-mile bike tour in memory of her late sister, Rosemary, for the American Diabetes Association. She spoke before the 2014 Legislative Committee in Tallahassee, Florida, which you will hear about shortly. Alice believes in giving back to the community as she volunteers for the Central Florida Food Bank and Junior Achievement. She, along with her sister, cooked and fed Hurricane Katrina victims. She has 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. Alice enjoys spending time with her family and close friends and her adopted dog, Angel. As a facilitator for the BSH support group, it has been an honor to observe Alice over the past year turn her pain into purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, Alice Flowers.
Approximately 20 years ago, in 1994, here in Orange County, a baby boy was born. I was there and witnessed this most joyous occasion with my sister as she gave birth to her first and only child, Everett Pate Jr. The minute he arrived, he was laid in my welcoming arms as my sister looked on with a big smile of approval. I tenderly embraced our new arrival. While looking at my nephew, I named him Monster. I called him Monster his whole life until last year, July 15th, 2013, when he finally lived up to his nickname and ended the life of his mother. Good morning, my name is Alice Flowers, and thank you all for attending the 2014 National Day of Remembrance. Last year, on the July 4th holiday, it commemorated the end of another successful family reunion that convened here in Orlando, Florida. Over 100 family members from both sides of my mother and father's family attended. The reunion was once again hosted by me and my talented sister, Rosemary. It was one of our best reunions ever. Just 2 weekends after the family reunion, my sister returned home after a much-needed getaway in Hilton Head, South Carolina. As usual, we exchanged text messages for the duration of the weekend. She texted photos of the beautiful beach and the scenic view from her hotel window. She returned home to her residence Sunday evening, and we continued texting until 11 p.m. My last text to her was to ask if she had plans of cycling with her biking group after work the next day. She simply replied, no. One-word responses from my sister meant she was already in bed. So I decided to call it a night as well. My sister and I both worked for Lockheed Martin here in Orlando, Florida on Sand Lake Road. She worked upstairs from where I sat. If I wasn't upstairs in her office chatting, she was downstairs in my cubicle. We were well known throughout the plant because of our genetic similarities. And from being seen eating lunch on the patio, we normally traveled together to attend family functions. Monday, July 15th, 2013, is a day I shall never forget. It started out a typical Monday morning. After an hour of sitting at my desk, I opened my instant message pop-up window to send my sister an instant message. But her status was unavailable, as it would be whenever she was logged off her computer. much thought I continued on my usual day. I figured that maybe she decided to take the day off or simply forgot to tell me she had an early morning appointment. At 10:30 a.m., I was surprised when my phone rang and the caller ID showed the name of my sister's manager. Odd, I thought to myself. Why is my sister's manager calling me? He also sat upstairs next to my sister's office. Couldn't imagine why he'd be calling me as he'd never called me before. I answered the phone and he said, "Hi, Alice, where's your sister? She's never been a no-show. This is not like her." While maintaining my cool, I calmly told him I'd check into it and get back with him. I immediately called her cell and got her voicemail. I left a message. "Rose, where are you? I'm looking for you. Please call me." I then called my sister's neighbor who lived just a few doors down from her and asked if he could walk down to her house and check on things for me. While driving to her house, the neighbor returned my call and said he was unable to get an answer after walking the entire perimeter of the house, knocking on windows and doors. We agreed to call law enforcement. Driving north on Florida's Turnpike, a million thoughts raced through my head. But I tried to keep calm until I knew the facts. Maybe my sister once again got into an altercation with her only child, 19-year-old Everett Pate Jr. She called me in the past when the situation spun out of control. Ironically, my neighbor was always calm when I arrived to their house, and he would even go as far as apologizing to his mother when I asked him to. I thought that maybe this time he'd gotten so angry and desperate that maybe he tied her up so he could once again steal items from the home to pawn. At last, I arrived in my sister's neighborhood and turned the corner of the street she lived on. Law enforcement vehicles lined the street. An unsettling feeling came over me. After parking my vehicle in the usual spot that I always park, an officer informed me that they were waiting for the judge to sign the search warrant, granting permission to conduct a wellness check. Neighbors graciously provided me a chair and a cup of water while I sat directly across the street, glaring at my sister's front door. I'd been to that house and every place she'd ever lived in a million times. Christmas, New Year's, Memorial Day, July 4th gatherings, Thanksgiving, social events, parties. We looked for an excuse to get together and entertain. But mostly I'd been to that house for absolutely no reason at all, other than to spend quality time with my smart, intelligent, beautiful, generous, and loving sister. I reminisce me walking up and ringing the doorbell and hearing her dog, Angel. Angel would bark and scratch on the door with excitement. Oftentimes my nephew would race to the door and answer the door. And with enthusiasm, he'd yell, "Hi, Auntie." And then he'd skip on back to his bedroom. Little Angel amused me by running in circles as fast as her little legs could go. The more I laughed, the more she'd run until she just couldn't run any farther. Oh, how I loved going to visit my sister. We could put big Sunday meals and invite each other over. We'd bring each other lunch at work. Everything was always kosher between us. We never had an argument, and I know that's very hard for some of you to believe. But my dad is here to bear witness. We were true soulmates. My reminiscing was abruptly interrupted when an officer informed me the search warrant was signed. I gasped for air as I watched helplessly as law enforcement yelled warnings and entered the home through a rear door closest to the bedroom. After several minutes had passed, a few officers exited the same rear door that they entered and walked directly towards me. I made eye contact with the leading officer, but she quickly looked away. Why? Why did she look away? Maybe my sister really wasn't inside the house after all. Maybe her son forced her to drive him somewhere just to scare her. He threatened to hurt her in the past, but surely he could not have been serious. Yeah, that's it. He just wanted to scare her and again force her to give in to his demands. The officer approached me and I stood up. She stopped directly in front of me and said, "I'm so sorry to tell you. Your sister has passed away." Time stood still. I fell back. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't comprehend. Could not understand how something this tragic could happen to such a loving person. In that very moment, everything I'd ever been taught, everything I believed in, everything we dreamed about, everything I lived for vanished. I was numb. My life as I knew it was over. Born Rosemary Slaughter in 1961, we were raised with 5 other siblings in a small town on Florida's East Coast, only minutes from Sebastian, called Wabasso. We were raised by God-fearing and law-abiding parents who taught us the same. 7 children lived in our household, and our parents were never called to bail any of us out of trouble. My father is here to bear witness. Rosemary graduated top of her high school class in 1979. She furthered her education at a 2-year community college and graduated with honors from the University of Central Florida here in Orlando. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in business management. She was hired by Lockheed Martin as a contracts administrator, and over the course of 27 years, she promoted to senior contracts manager. She earned a master's degree from Florida Institute of Technology. Rosemary was motivated to do all the right things, and as a result, she was highly respected by family, friends, colleagues, both international and domestic customers of Lockheed Martin, and I was her #1 fan. Rosemary wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend, my confidant, my cheerleader, my partner in crime, my travel partner, my mother, my advisor, my caregiver, the one person who I could always depend on. When you saw me, you saw her. We were rarely apart and communicated every day. We respected each other, looked up to each other, admired each other, encouraged each other, provided a shoulder to cry on and a soft place to fall. I could never imagine my life without her. and I did not want to live another day. After many years of turmoil between my sister and her son, there were times he would hold her hostage at knife point. He would jump on top of her vehicle to prevent her from going to work, constantly arguing, robbing her, pawning her items, and threatening to harm her. She had military-style locks installed on her bedroom door to create a safe room for herself. However, it was that same room where she was found. On many occasions, she arrived home from business trips only to find she'd been robbed by her son and his shady friends. I advised her to take his threats seriously. Rosemary's only child had the best of everything. She doted over him, much like many of us dote over our children. There wasn't anything weird or abnormal about my sister. She was the girl next door, the mother you could trust to watch over your children. However, she, like so many other parents, had come face to face with a dark secret called parent abuse. Former Orange County Commissioner Homer Hardish became friends with Rosemary through a cycling group. Our family did not want her passing to be in vain. So together we began working efforts to raise awareness of this growing epidemic. Earlier this year, I traveled to Tallahassee and spoke before the Florida legislature, encouraging them to recognize parent abuse as a form of domestic violence. Parent abuse refers to the continual use of abusive tactics towards a parent, which enable children and young people to exercise power over their parent. The abusive tactics may be physical, emotional, economic, and like other forms of family abuse, it is characterized by secrecy and shame. My sister experienced all of these, but limited resources were available to her. In 2012, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement reported that there were more than 1,600 reported instances of physical and sexual abuse towards parents in Osceola, Orange, Seminole, and Lake counties. This is unbelievable. These are only reported instances. Parent abuse is underreported for various reasons. Parents are fearful of being judged and called unfit. However, a study was conducted that concluded that most parents that were abused were loving and supporting parents. Florida Senator Geraldine Thompson and House Representative Larry Lee introduced the parent abuse bill earlier this year to the Florida legislature. Again, the purpose of the bill is to add parent abuse as a category under domestic violence, much like child abuse, elder abuse, domestic partner abuse, spousal abuse, etc. The legislature passed unanimously in the Department of Children, Families, and Elder Affairs. However, there's still so much work to be done to get the bill passed through other legislative committees. Again, resources for parent abuse victims are limited. My daughter, raise your hand, Tiffany, has organized a meetup group where anyone can come and discuss parent abuse in a shame and stigma-free environment. We're committed to educate, raise awareness, and encourage the Florida legislature to add parent abuse as a category under domestic violence. And we're asking them to establish early intervention resources, such as diversion programs. We want to intervene before it goes too far. The flaw that we're facing right now, if a minor is arrested and removed from the home, the minor is returned to that home because legally the parent is responsible. We need to fix this. As for me and my family, our lives are changed forever. I have been unable to return to work and unable to return to the life I once knew. There are so many psychological issues. Many of my past passions, such as cooking, going to concerts, traveling, looking forward to the holidays, were done with my sister. Homicide is one of the hardest griefs to overcome. Homicide committed by a family member cannot be described. But I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Orange County Sheriff Victim Advocate Unit, the Bereaved Survivors of Homicide Support Group. This group is an integral part of my continued healing. The facilitators, Ms. Pam Bailey, Ms. Laura McKenna, newcomer, Sandara Williams, we say thank you. You guys have saved my life. And I encourage anyone who's lost a loved one to homicide to please visit the group. To the first detective I met, Detective Chris Haas, Lieutenant Todd Persley, and the entire Joint Homicide Investigation team, my family says thanks. Although my life has changed forever, I will do whatever I can to save the life of a parent. And I hope you will join me. Thank you for your time.